Hello, today we're going to be talking about 7 assessment strategies in under 7 minutes. So today's topic is formative assessment. Formative assessment is feedback to both the student and the teacher. It looks at next step instruction. What do we need to do to make sure our students are hitting learning targets and learning objectives? So speaking of, students and teachers look at where they are going. For teachers, they've set up clear and understandable targets that their students should focus on hitting. These targets should be in student-friendly language, and it looks at what we want our students to learn. Rubrics should also be in student-friendly language for projects. We can't expect our students to do well on projects if they don't understand what we want from them. I have an example here of clear and understandable targets in the form of essential questions. So students can look at these questions and understand that this is what we want them to learn from the lesson. This is what we want them to take away. We can use models of strong and weak work. Always use anonymous work so we don't embarrass anyone. Try to tackle the common mistakes that students often make. This way our students won't constantly make those same mistakes. In this stage, we show students that it is okay to make mistakes. It's okay to revise. If we grade too early, it discourages learning. So we just want to give as much feedback as possible in this stage. Students look at where they are now. They should be looking back at the targets and seeing where they are when it comes to hitting them. Like I said, this is where we give lots and lots of feedback, so that way students can understand where they are with their learning, where they need to be, and how they can close the gap. This is where they look at our feedback, and hopefully they take our feedback and learn from it. So here's the stars and stairs diagram, where students can see where they are at with their learning, and where they are going, and how close they are to hitting this last column. We teach students to self-assess and set goals for next steps. The ownership of the learning is then with the student. They look at what they've done well and what they need to continue working on. This strategy is so hard to include in our classrooms because teachers are constantly on a time crunch. But it is so important that students realize that they are in fact learning, that they are on their way to successfully hitting the targets, and that they can see where they are at with hitting these targets. Students look at how they can close the gap. What does it take for them to move from a 2 to a 4? Or what does it take for them to move from an 80 to 100? Here, teachers use evidence of student learning to determine next steps in teaching. Where are the misunderstandings? Where's the flawed reasoning? Or where are the misconceptions? We try to avoid reteaching when possible, but we take the assessment information here in the feedback loop, and we just give additional instruction. Is there something they're not understanding? And if so, we give more experience or more instruction, and we allow them to practice. This way, when we get to the grading portion, they are good to go. Design-focused instruction followed by practice with feedback. This is more specifically where we take these misconceptions and we just focus on them, or we take the misunderstandings and we just focus on them. That way students aren't bound to make the same mistakes over and over again. In case you're wondering, in the feedback loop, again, we're over here where the assessments tell us what exactly the error is, and we focus our lesson plans to make sure they don't make the same mistakes again. When we provide opportunities for students to track, reflect on, share their learning process, we show students that they have come a long way with their learning, that learning has occurred, and they can specifically highlight their own strengths. One way that they can do this is in the form of a portfolio, so they can self-reflect and look back on their work samples to see if they have met goals. I leave you with this quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." When we involve students in their own learning process, they are guaranteed to take their learning and take it beyond their secondary level and with them into their whole lives.